Hello and welcome to the 39 Minutes of Heaven we call the D1Baseball Podcast. I'm your host, Michael Patrick Rooney. I want to say thank you to our good friends at Academy Sports and Outdoors. It's the time. It's a new season of fishing fun with Academy Sports and Outdoors. You can reel on the best gear at low prices every day. Plus, Academy offers easy ways to shop and save time, like free 1 hour in-store or curbside pickup on academy.com orders. Thrilled to be partnered with those guys during the season. As I am thrilled to be joined by Aaron J. Fitt, Kendall J. Rogers, gentlemen, week 5. I'm not hallucinating,
This
right?
is weekend 5. And by the way, Runes,
Yes.
I did contribute to the Academy Fund today.
Oh.
The jar, Mason Rogers, obviously a big football player, but he's decided that he wants to start playing a lot of catch with the baseball.
Love it.
So went and got him a glove today at Academy. They had exactly what I was looking for. So outside stuff, baseball, basketball, football, they had exactly what I was looking for. So go to Academy.
Do gloves today have autographs of Major League players, or that's something from 40 years ago?
That's a great question. Honestly, did not look at a lot of them. I will say the gloves these days are – we kind of noticed this at the Wilson store in Omaha in the baseball village. But, like, the gloves these days are very colorful. Like, there were a lot of, like baseball gloves that were at Academy that were, like, teal. And, I mean, I think I even saw, like, a pink one, which I thought was really interesting for a baseball glove. But it's just a lot of different color schemes, so it's kind of neat.
Clever. My glove, I was an infielder as a kid, because I was not very big. And my glove that I used forever was autographed by Jim Catfish Hunter. Not like literally autographed, but it was.
You are dating yourself a little bit there.
Yeah, he was a pitcher, obviously, and we used that as our infield glove. It was a different time, Fitzy.
I had a Dave Winfield glove when I was a kid.
Oh, nice.
Ooh, that's a good one.
I'm also dating myself.
That's a great one.
I will tell you, drafted in 3 sports. Go ahead, Kendall.
Well, I will tell you, since we are partners of Wilson, my favorite glove that they have, I think it's the Wilson A2000.
Yeah,
it's like really broken in already. Like, it's one of those gloves that, I mean, it's not cheap, but like you don't have to break it in at all. Like, it's already like really loose leather. That's like a great first glove.
I had one of those. We were at ASU. When we went to D. Marini, that was Wilson D. Marini. Got one of those. Are sick gloves. Those A2000s are awesome. Yeah. Those are beauties.
You know who has a sick glove? Justin LeBron. He has a sick glove.
Again, buying shares every day, Fitzy. Buying as many shares as we can get our hands on.
This weekend.
Yes. Boys, let's jump in here. So weekend 5, I'm going to take us around the leagues, the main leagues, if you will, and then we'll do some kind of a little potluck, if you will. So I'll give you the menu and you guys pick what you want.
Sure.
So the SEC, it's the gauntlet. The 10 weeks of Hades starts this week. There's no breaks. There's no timeouts. It's you're playing 30 games for the next 10 weeks, and may the force be with you. So we get some good stuff. Texas at Mississippi State for their first SEC series ever. This is a fun one. Kentucky goes to Georgia. It's fun for many reasons, but also fun because Wes Johnson has been plucking assistant coaches from Kentucky. We've got Will Coggin is over at Georgia. Obviously, was there last year. Nick Amorati is over at Georgia now. So I bet you that one's a little spicy. We've got Alabama at A&M. I've got that game 3 Sunday night, which will be super fun. Oklahoma at South Carolina, Vandy at Auburn. We've got the Gators going to Knoxville, Florida at Tennessee. Florida's a little banged up, but still that will be amazing. Arkansas at Ole Miss. LSU hosts Mizzou, but like in theory, you'd think LSU will handle business there. Fitzy, go wherever you want here. Any of these jump out for you?
Yeah, well, I'm going to give a shout out to our man Jeremy McCollum in the comments.
Oh yes,
he's first in the comments. He says, "Go Hogs and go D1s." Let's talk about Arkansas. I think that's a good place to start. I think it's a fun series. Arkansas, Ole Miss. I think it's a really fun series. Honestly, like, you got 2 good veteran rotations here. And I like, what Arkansas has done, moving Zach Root into the 5-day starter spot. I was texting with our friend Danny Wexelman about Root today, and she shares my enthusiasm for him that I expressed on the podcast with David Seifert the other day. I think this guy's a top 15 pick. I think he's that good. And I think, splitting up lefty in that rotation with Root, Gackle, and then Beetlejuice on Sunday. I like that, and I just think that's three really good arms. But I mean, Ole Miss counters with Hunter Elliott, Riley Maddox, Mason Nichols. I mean, you got a bunch of Omaha veterans there who all have good stuff. I just think the pitching matchups are so juicy there. Arkansas has been swinging the bats a lot better, of course, last couple of weeks, and I like that Ole Miss offense too. So I think that one's pretty fun.
Hey, now Gackle's moving to Saturday. Not like that's not an emotion. Because he only had one bad start, right? That's more like break up the lefties.
I don't have an answer for that. I think it may be Root is just that good that he's maybe just kind of. It's possible he's past Gackle in the pecking order, and just that's the guy you want as your tone setter. But also, I mean, I just think strategically it makes sense to break up the lefties. And it's not a huge deal in my opinion. Like one day to the next is completely different. It's not like you're playing matchups within a game. You don't really need to break up the lefties, but I kind of like doing it.
Yeah.
The other thing that's really interesting about this series is, I don't think people realize that Arkansas really hasn't played a road game. I mean, if you look at their schedule, I mean, they played 3 games at Globe Life. I mean, you were there. I mean, they had 17,000 people at 2 of the games, and I'm guessing probably 9 or 10 at the Sunday game. So they have not actually played a true road game. And I would think, as long as the weather cooperates, I would assume it's probably warm in Oxford this weekend, that it's going to be a packed house. It's going to be different for this Arkansas pitching staff to go on the road in a rowdy environment in Oxford. But I'll say this. I kind of had my eye on Arkansas's pitching staff. I wrote a lot about the Lloyd brothers today in the SEC primer. And, Arkansas, for all we've talked about with their offense, its offense is hitting .313 right now going into the weekend. And that's pretty impressive. And so just seeing their offense in that environment, and then obviously the pitching staff in Oxford, that's going to be really interesting. But again, Hunter Elliott, he just continues to be an awesome story. I mean, there's probably not a kid in college baseball that I root for more right now than just him. Just 2 years off, he continues to pitch at a really high level, and he'll certainly be tested there in the series opener tomorrow in Oxford.
And some of the bright pundits on this show have been saying for weeks now that the Arkansas offense is pretty good. And, so far so good. Now, SEC plays the separator, but feel pretty good. I know Coach Rooney has Arkansas as his national championship pick. He's right there with me.
Yes.
But some of us have been maybe leading the vanguard here on the Arkansas.
The only bright pundit I see at D1Baseball right now is Patrick Ebert, who's killing the pick'em game.
I mean, can we get an investigation one time? I mean, like if Ebert's not rolling his bats or, taking deer, what is it? What is it? Deer antler spray? Is that what it's called? Anybody?
Yeah, Rudes, while we're on the SEC, I mean, I could talk about A&M and Alabama, and I'll have plenty of coverage on that. That's obviously huge for both those teams. I mean, A&M offensively, 3 of the last 4 games have been pretty good. Their starting rotation has been really good. They've played better defense. I mean, I honestly don't know what to expect from them this weekend. Like, on one hand, I'm kind of like, oh, this could be their breakout weekend. But on the other, Alabama's a really good team.
Yeah.
Riley Quick has pitched really well for Alabama. I think they'll be ready for that challenge. The other one for me would be Florida and Tennessee. The thing that concerns me about Florida is I feel like with some of their injuries, with Coppola out, I feel like Liam Peterson has to pitch really well for them tomorrow. I feel like if Peterson gets knocked out early, I think they're in trouble throughout the weekend. And so just seeing him, like kind of the refined Liam Peterson against that lineup in that ballpark is going to be really interesting because his command has been awesome this year thus far. And so we'll see if that continues tomorrow. But his start, you hate to put the onus on one guy in a series, but I feel like his start tomorrow night is very important.
I think that crowd in Knoxville will be. I hope it's. I didn't check the weather. I hope it's warm and they have an awesome crowd. That will be. It's a lot of new faces for Tennessee. Obviously, they've been incredible, but it'll be fascinating. The whole spectacle of that. Oh, speaking of fascinating,
Big Jack
Jackson.
It's the second most handsome man in college baseball.
Yeah, Jack DeLongchamps has joined us. Jack, where is Jack Jackson right now? Where do we find Jack Jackson?
Kendall, is very nice of you to lie to the people. It's very kind.
Thank you. You're only behind Mike Monaco, so that's a pretty good crew to be a part of.
Let's not let myself lie and say I don't have a Jack and crush on Mike Monaco. So
who doesn't?
Good start.
Yeah, I mean we all do. Get in line, buddy.
Yeah,
it's good. Coach, I'm in the district's capital right now. if I'm not going to cover CAA women's basketball, who is? So
that's right. Fair.
I'm in the nation's capital covering a little CFC hoops right now.
Yes. All right. So Jack, we're talking about the SEC opening up play this weekend. I'm going to leave this very open-ended for you. What is an SEC team so far that you've gotten a good whiff of that strikes your fancy?
To me, and I think it's because of the biasy factor of like I've seen it in person. I feel like Alabama's poised to make a Kentucky run from a season ago. Mm-hmm. And I think them traveling down to Athens this weekend is one heck of a test. Obviously, you look at the record and you're like, who's to say? But if you're like, hypothetically put an investment on any SEC weekend, right? Go ahead and take the home team. But I think Alabama, to me, has a lot to prove against A&M. Kentucky in Athens this weekend is like a fun one. I think I just misspoke a little bit, but I'm trying to catch myself.
Across the stream.
Alabama in CSTAT, Kentucky in Athens. Alabama, obviously. Are you on that call this weekend in CSTAT?
Sunday night. I have the Sunday game 3. Yep. Talked to both coaches today. I told these guys I drank a lot of A&M Kool-Aid today. Like, I really liked what Coach Early had to say. Like, it was very no panic. We got to Mike Early did a great thing on our call today. Our coach call that we get to do before the broadcast. He owned that they've played poorly. He didn't excuse it away. He didn't, like the weather, blah, blah, blah. He basically said, look, when you don't play clean baseball, I don't care how good you are. Like, it just, what's the old expression, or maybe the new expression, ball don't lie, is basically what he said. But he also looked very confident. Like, I like this team. I still really like this team. I don't know. I was, it was very compelling. He did not look spooked or panicked at all in that conversation.
I think that weekend, again, I can't believe I tripped up that easily, that quickly on the most exciting series of the weekend. But I think what's fun about that one, like if you're an A&M fan, like there's no need to hit the panic button because the weekend arms have still looked awesome, right? So the way that I see it is Prager wins on Friday. I don't know if anyone's has been as good on Saturday as Quick has for Alabama. 6'7" with a bowling ball, 98-mile-per-hour fastball. Like, sure, sign me up. That's going to be a hell of a rubber match for you on Sunday.
Yes. And my take on Alabama is just going through the roster. I don't like their top 15 players, I think, can play with anybody. Players 16 to 28, they're talented, but they're less proven. Whereas A&M, the depth of their roster is pretty overwhelming. Like, it's pretty insane. So, hey, Justin LaGrange, I see you in the chat. Welcome back. Tell us how your knee's doing, man. How you feeling? The dude had like 2 knee surgeries in the last month. So, tell us how your knee's doing, Justin. We're thinking of you there, and thanks for coming back. Boys, should we go to the Atlantic Coast Conference?
Yeah, sure. One quick comment on the SEC. We didn't mention this series, but the one series that it's having seen both teams in person, the one I do not have a great read on, and I'll be curious if any of you guys do. But Texas and Mississippi State, I feel like that's a very, very even series.
I would lean more towards, I don't know, if Fitzy and Jack, you break the tie. I actually would disagree a little bit, Kendall. Like, I've got Texas like a full tick ahead of Mississippi State right now. But I'm even in fairness, I saw Texas in person. I feel like Mississippi State's a little mysterious to me. Fitzy, what say you on this one?
Yeah, I agree with Kendall. I think it's a really good, even matchup, and I'm kind of intrigued, with Ben Davis in the rotation now for Mississippi State. I think we kind of know who Pico Khan is, and Carson Ligon. I saw some chatter about Carson Ligon in the comments. I think that's a really nice piece for a Sunday guy. Just a veteran right-hander with stuff. But Ben Davis is the one that caught my eye in that rotation because it's, I think he was recruited more as a catcher, and he had a broken hamate bone or something. And then he showed up at Mississippi State, and Chris Lamona said in the fall, like, this guy's got good enough stuff to be a weekend starter. It's like a power sinker, 94, 97, feel for a couple of good secondary pitches. And it's just a matter of, how fast it would come along. He had some pneumonia or something in the fall that slowed him down. But now they got him starting on Saturdays. And I think that's intriguing. So, I feel like the Texas rotation to me still feels a little bit up in the air. I mean, I think they have a TBA on Sunday, but like you got Spencer and Luke Harris in the first 2 days. Some good pitching matchups there. So, I think I'm still pretty high on Mississippi State. I think I like their pitching depth a lot, and I feel like they've kind of found their footing.
I like it.
No, I didn't see the TBA on Sunday. Might need to have a chat with Max if my man D1Baseball is not starting on Sunday. Maybe they're trying to bring him out of the bullpen to kind of take the load off of Riojas on Friday or something.
Well, maybe it's one of those things where he's the type of kid where they're playing for series wins, and so use him out of the pen, because I don't think Texas feels super awesome about their bullpen. So, that's interesting. Jack Jackson, what you got any vibes on Texas, Mississippi State?
Being a Palmetto State guy, I loved how Limo has kind of gone back to his roots. And also, if you're Texas, like what a heck of a welcome to the SEC moment than like to having to go a little bit. Noah Sullivan in that lineup is really fun. I broadcasted a ton of his baseball when he was at USC Upstate. They also go get a guy in Sawyer Reeves that kind of platoons as a utility guy, plays a lot of shortstop. They went and hit the portal in a really unique way, which is kind of, I don't know, in order to win in this league, like you have to have star power. But I also think that there's something to be said about having baseball experience and baseball like knowledge. And I think they've got a lot of that. And I think that plays at home in this weekend. So I feel good about anytime Max Wiener trots anybody out there, like, cool, sign me up. Like I'm all in. Like he could throw me on the mound with my left arm, and I feel pretty good about it as long as Max coaching me up. But
I don't know if we want to see that, dude.
Jack, Max Wiener, to your point, still the best. That's the best trot to the mound we have in college baseball. It is. It's glorious. I
think it's more of like a sachet than it is a trot, isn't it?
It is. Hey, Fitzy, I know how much you believe in personal accountability, so let's call out in the comments, Canes Cats Heat 305. Love this, and I quote, address how much of an idiot I am for saying we being Miami would sweep UConn, and they almost swept us. Canes Cats Heat 305. First of all, elite handle. Second of all, 80 personal accountability right there. How do we feel about that, Fitzy?
No, love the accountability. Welcome back to the fold. Canes Cats Heat 305. He also had a question. And listen, I'm going to take issue with the part where you say that you're an idiot and we're the experts, because look at our picks records. We're all over the place. We're all just throwing darts here.
That's right.
I just think UConn deserves some respect. As you saw, they're pretty good. But Miami's first 3 ACC series at Wake, Florida State at home, at UNC. He wants to know what's the realistic expectations for those 3 series. That's daunting. That's daunting, especially with 2 of them on the road. I mean, I think if they could go 3-6 in those 3 weekends, that's probably a win, and that's maybe not what you want to hear. But maybe you steal something, you steal a series out of those 3. But I would expect 3-6 would be probably a realistic target there.
I like it. Fitzy, elite. Go ahead, Kendall. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, while we're talking about the ACC a little bit, you were kind of segueing over to the ACC.
Yes, sir.
One matchup that's really interesting to me is obviously North Carolina and Louisville. Louisville's a team that's just, outside of our top 25 right now. They've got a chance to make a big statement this weekend. I like their club opening weekend. Patrick Forbes was electric, at Globe Life, and he's continued to be awesome. I mean, you're looking at a guy, 39 strikeouts, 3 walks, 177 opponent batting average. He's having an incredible season. Peter Michael's been really solid for them. And then Tate Davis was a guy that, obviously very heralded freshman, honestly struggled the whole weekend at Globe Life. And it was kind of funny. Dan McDonald was telling me after the last game, he said, you know what? Like, I kind of like him experiencing this, because he was so good in high school and so good in the fall. I want him to be humbled a little bit. And judging by his numbers, 400 average, 7 home runs, 1.413 OPS. He must be on a tear since Globe Live, because I think he had 1 hit that entire weekend.
Kendall, I'm going to take issue with what you just said there. If we think that college baseball is harder for Tag Davis than the Philadelphia Interact League, the cauldron that is Penn Charter and Haverford School and Episcopal Academy, I would disagree with you, Coach McDonald, but I kid.
I mean, how about I haven't seen I don't think the ACC has sent out their pitching matchups, but I would assume it would be Jason DeCaro against Forbes. I mean, that is get your popcorn ready kind of matchup.
Yes. Fitzy, I'll come to you and then Jack. So let me highlight a couple more. Boston College, on the heels of their series win at Virginia, will just run it back and head to Tallahassee and go to Florida State. And then Virginia's at Cal. That's very interesting. And then Duke is at Stanford. So we the West Coast. Fitzy, you know what they say, that NorCal runs the ACC, but I don't know. What do you like there?
Duke and Stanford is intriguing to me. I actually had a hard time picking this one. I don't know what I picked. I think I took the home team. I just saw Stanford. They were good, but also saw a little bit of Duke. I think Duke's starting to figure it out. And it's just one of those things that is kind of felt inevitable to me. Like Coach Pollard's going to figure it out. And he even, he's pretty candid in his comments over the weekend on Saturday or Friday after they got blown out. He's kind of mystified by their struggles. They just weren't really performing up to their talent. Part of it is your 2-star sophomores, AJ Grassi and Kyle Johnson hadn't gotten off to great starts, but the other guys that I feel like we're picking up the slack some, and it's only a matter of time. I mean, Grassi is just a born hitter. It's weird that he's had this kind of a slump out of the gate. It's coming. I know Kyle Johnson can pitch and he's got really good stuff. That's coming. But I just think their bullpen is still a strength that they can lean upon. And I think the offense has had its moments, certainly, where it's been solid. So I think Duke can go across country and win that series. I mean, I don't know what I picked. I think I picked Stanford, but that to me is really intriguing. It kind of feels like a toss-up because I know Stanford is good, but I also still think Duke is good, even though they hadn't played that great over the first week. But they showed some fight after they got blown out on Friday. They came back and won that series against Cal.
Jack, I got a question for you. So if you're Duke or UVA, you're a player on either one of these clubs. You've got a cross-country baseball trip this week. A, are you excited or dreading that or somewhere in the middle? B, what's your snack game looking like for a 6-hour flight? And then what are we teeing up? Are we Netflixing? Are we playing cards? What are we doing on the flight? What do you got, Jack Jackson?
I've incorporated it in all of my interviews so far this season. I'm very curious to dive into the mafia investigation that's happening in bus trips across college baseball America right now. I'm very interested to see who's narrating these trips. I'm very curious to see who's dominating them. Kind of the age-old theme is that the vets are running the table. I don't know if you can play mafia on a plane though. I can't imagine that flight attendants are about that. With that being said, I got to imagine that the schools I went to don't have the per diem money that Duke and UVA are rolling with. So I think they're snacking out aggressively. I think it's the Chex Mix. I think it's a chocolate to go with it and a non-alcoholic beverage to really top things off. With that being said, I think there's a level of excitement to it, right?
Oh, yeah. Yes.
We are all sitting back going, hey, a 6-hour flight and 2-hour bus drives to make this happen is unrealistic. But for those dudes, they're going, I get to miss 2 days of class. I get to go play and go see a part of the country I've never been to before. And you're also going and seeing, in Duke's case, Stanford feels like a baseball blue blood. And I don't know where people draw the hard lines in the sand with that, but to me, when you think of college baseball, Stanford is right there at the top. So I think there's a lot of excitement to it. And Fitzy, I'd also like to add Duke coming off maybe the 2 most impressive mid-major wins of the weekend against A-10 powerhouse George Mason.
Yeah.
I mean,
hey, now go Pats.
Hey, go Pats.
I've got 2 things here. One is a serious, not serious, but
locked in,
a legitimate comment. I asked, the Stanford guys a little bit about this, it's the first ACC road trip, of course, cross country. And I feel like they're not maybe so enthusiastic about it because they have to do it 5 times, and it kind of felt like they're over it already. Like the whole, I tried to make light of it with Volchko. I think it was well, you guys are young, you're fine. And he's like, yeah, I guess. It seems like it's just kind of those things they just have to do. If you're Duke, you get to go across country once, that's fun. But I do think that's going to wear on the West Coast wing of the league. And secondly, I would love if you could give us a 30-second explainer on what the heck Mafia is, because Duke, I know, has been talking about this for 2 years, and I'm always like, what are they talking about? What even is this game?
Really? Okay, yeah. Coach, Kendall, are you aware of what Mafia is?
I've heard of it. I think my kids might play it.
Okay. Yeah, I have a vague idea of what it is, but I couldn't play it. I don't know how to participate.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to give my best Spark Notes version. So Mafia, it's just a bus game, right? One guy's rolling up and down the aisles. And do you remember the game Heads Up, 7 Up, where everyone's got their heads down in the aisles?
Yeah.
So imagine everyone's heads down. So the narrator's going to pick 2 to 3 Mafia members, 2 to 3 cops, and then everybody else is townspeople. This is where every school's game of choice differs. The cops have to figure out who the Mafia is before the Mafia kills off the cops and the townspeople. Does that make sense? So in between each round, the narrator gets to tell this really elaborate, crazy story. And the Mafia gets to try to guess who the Mafia or the cops are and vice versa. But it is I got to imagine that there are no certainties in life. I am almost certain that every college baseball team in the country is playing it on every bus.
That's amazing.
Maybe we'll play it in the press box in Omaha.
Oh,
I like
8-hour games.
Let's do that.
Chef's
Kendall, yes. Kendall, keep the mic. Let's do the Big 12. Let me give you some series to pick from. Oh,
okay.
Go ahead.
Well, I had one more comment on the ACC real quick.
Please do that, and then we'll do it.
I never want to say it's a must-win series this early in the season. That would be silly. But I do think this is a big weekend for Virginia. We just talked about the travel and things like that. Virginia coming off a series loss to Boston College at home. They go to Cal. No offense to the Golden Bears, but that can kind of be a little bit of a sleepy place to have to go play a series. And so I just think Virginia, that's a big weekend for them to get right. And one thing that kind of stands out to me, and I was just looking at their home run totals, Virginia is 15th in the ACC right now in home runs, and that's pretty surprising to me. So just curious to see how UVA looks this weekend.
Yep, good point. All right, so we'll go to the Big 12. Before we do that, gentlemen, I want you thinking about this, the participants. Sven Kreuzberg in the chat is awesome. He's a participant all the time. Great follower.
I hope that's
what is Sven? If Sven is really his real name, what is the country of origin of Sven Kreuzberg? Don't answer. Let us guess. Yeah. I'm going to guess Austria.
Sweden.
Luxembourg.
Definitely Sweden.
Liechtenstein.
Luxembourg. Okay, I like it. Jack?
Switzerland feels right.
I'm in Germany. He's German.
He's in Germany. Oh, even
crushing.
Better.
That's crushing.
Yes.
I already own one of my picks this week. This is crushing.
Isn't Austria a suburb of Germany? Do I get credit for that?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Easy now. Easy.
I'm pretty sure I'm as close to downtown Houston as Austria is Berlin. Not really.
Okay. Well, that's the perfect segue. Who doesn't go from talking about Germany to the Big 12 in baseball? Kendall, we've got Arizona State at Texas Christian. We've got West Virginia, 15-1 West Virginia at Oklahoma State. Timothy Smith asked about that. That's a big series. And then we've got Cincinnati at Arizona. We've got Baylor at Kansas is interesting. There's others, but let me tee you up there, Kendall.
Yeah, you know what? I'm going to go with Baylor at Kansas. I mean, it was kind of funny. I was talking to Mitch the other day, and in a way, I was kind of like, man, it's kind of surprising, to be honest with you, that we're talking about Baylor in week 5 being a contender, but they've done a really nice job this year. I mean, Sean Snedeker, who did a really good job with Lamar's pitching staff, came over to Waco. He's done a really nice job. Ethan Calder has been really solid for them. They've pitched at a pretty high level. Wesley Jordan's a nice bat for BU. And so for Baylor to be 13-3 going to Kansas, who's 15-2, my hunch right now would be that one of those two teams is in the postseason, especially with Texas Tech on such a big slide right now. One of those two teams will be in the postseason. And this could be a series that ultimately, when we look in 2.5 months, decides that.
Like it. Fitzy, what do you got on the Big 12, the large 12?
Yeah, West Virginia at Oklahoma State. Timothy Smith asked a question about this one in the chat. He said, West Virginia is 15-1, but has played a weak schedule and now opens at the preseason Big 12 favorites. Yeah, I agree. I think this is a super intriguing series because we don't really know how good West Virginia is yet. I mean, 15-1 is nice, and certainly some teams play soft schedules and don't go 15-1. But you'd love to see what they can do against higher end competition. And this weekend, we're going to find out, I will say this, just going back to my fall look at West Virginia, I liked the talent there, and obviously they lost some big pieces from last year's Super Regional club, but they've got some good athleticism there, some veterans. Like, I think Runes, you wrote about Brody Tresser in your Big 12 primer. He's really elevated his game, taken over that, I guess, returned to that shortstop job after he filled in for Weather Holt there some last year. But his offensive numbers are fantastic, and he's really controlling the zone. But with him and like a Sam White, and of course you got Logan Save, who we all really like. Kyle West, Grant Hussey. I mean, these are some familiar names, that they can count on, that really anchor that order. And and there's plenty of arm talent there. It's a really deep pitching staff, I think. At least I thought they were. And I saw them for 18 innings, and they used a lot of arms and really went toe-to-toe with Wake Forest in the fall. So I walked away thinking that they do have regional caliber talent. They just had to kind of establish themselves some on the mound. And so far, so good. It's a little bit of a different challenge, certainly, when you're in Stillwater. But I think West Virginia is a legit contender, a legit postseason team, but I also think that Oklahoma State has run the gauntlet already. They're battle tested, and I think they're going to be ready to hit the ground running in conference play because they've been through that. So I like the Cowboys at home, but I think it's a really fun matchup.
Yes, Jack Jackson. So first of all, before I go to the Big Jack here, if you're listening to my voice and you have not read my Big 12 primer, press pause and go do that. It is a banger. I poured my heart and soul into that thing.
Click.
I mean, the sentence structure was amazing, Fitzy. The vocab, it was elite. The edit game we have at D1 is unparalleled. Jack Jackson, here's my question for you, and you could ignore my question and give us analysis, whatever you care to do. My question for you is, if you could interview any player in the Big 12, who would you choose? Maybe you've already talked to somebody. And if you could go see a series at any Big 12 venue, forget who they're playing, what would you choose? Do you have a venue? I got one I would suggest, but go ahead.
Well, okay, so you got me in between the two that I was already kind of interested. I don't want to pander to the only game that happened today, but I had a buddy of mine that actually interviewed with a pencil Demis Ross down at UCF. They played at BYU today, a 9-8 win in the rain. That's a really impressive win for the Knights, I felt like today. So we interviewed Ross. He was a heck of a personality. But if you're asking me if I could go interview anyone now, Noah Franco's the real deal, isn't he, boys?
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
He's really good. And I'm really excited because I know Arizona State's going to be really good this year. And it feels like this is going to be a weekend series between TCU and Arizona State that we look back on at the end of the year and go, that's got some big-time Big 12 like seeding implications on the line. So if you were to ask me who I want to interview today, I think Noah Franco's got that it. I think he's got the juice. I think he's got it. And I'm also pandering a bit because Kirk Saarloos is a fellow lover of flip-flops, as I am. Yes. And as a Houston guy, I'm all in on Kirk Saarloos and the Frogs. So I'll go Noah Franco.
And you're a fan of wine, right?
Wine?
Oh, Los loves
well, about Los's family. They have like a massive winery in California.
Excuse? No.
Yeah.
See? Really? Trying to help a brother out over here.
Yes. Jack, let me put this on your radar. High Corbett Field in Tucson, underrated college baseball venue. Wow. Go in April when it gets warm. It would be like a spring break Daytona Beach with the libations are flowing. It's a very young, crowd dressed for warm climates, and it with a baseball game. It is really a fun scene.
I like the way you worded that, Runes.
The last part specifically. Saturday evenings at High Corbett, when they get great crowds, it's electric, and you get those crazy sunsets over the. I mean, it's just really, really a cool setting for sure.
Yeah, the cervezas are very grande that they serve there, Jack. Yes.
Go ahead, Jack.
No, I was just going to say I was smelling what he was stepping in from the jump. I'm all in.
I know exactly where Runes does not need to be around the bush here. Runes,
yes.
Speaking of good scenery, what's your feeling on Arizona State? Are you still buying in on Arizona State right now, going into TCU this weekend?
Well, I think it's interesting. I didn't write about, they were one of the few teams in my Big 12 primer that I didn't cover. Like, I didn't have any player that fit a criteria. I didn't, their series against TCU this weekend I almost picked, but West Virginia to Oklahoma State was too I couldn't trump that. And so I will say this about Arizona State. They're pitching better than you'd think. And they're fielding 988. They're like, the run prevention has been fine. Their bullpen is got a little bit of hold your breath to it. The problem is, like, they're just kicking games, right? They've lost some winnable games. And so I think I'm still a buyer of Arizona State. I still see them as a regional team. Their offense has not shown the best version of itself. So you could play that both ways, right? Like, hey, is there something wrong? Is it too many draft eligible players that are feeling the pressure? Who knows? Is the group not fitting together well? Or is it they just haven't played their best baseball? I tend to think it's the latter. I do worry about their pitching depth, but I think they're absolutely a postseason team, and I would not back off of that prediction. So there you go.
I agree.
Yeah.
Absolutely. They had like that one kind of head scratching weekend. On that, they played pretty good baseball.
Yeah, Minnesota's not terrible.
Yeah, you're right.
Bingo.
Like, they're much improved.
Yep. Hey, boys, let's do the Big Ten. This is the league that I have like a hit streak right now, Jack. I've said that I've never been this excited about Big Ten baseball. I've said it now 7 podcasts in a row. Make that 8. So I've never been this excited about Big Ten baseball. The Rooneys purchased Big Ten Plus last week, so we can watch. Yeah, how about that, right? We're in. Fitzy, we're in. Chips are in the table.
Hey, Coach, you can expense that if you want. We'll allow it.
Okay. Yeah, I don't think it's not Big Ten Plus is not very expensive. So that's good. Let me give you some matchups. USC at Michigan. It's a Rose Bowl. It's a Rose Bowl for baseball. USC at Michigan. Michigan State at Iowa. Nebraska at UCLA, speaking of going west, and Minnesota at Oregon. Nebraska at UCLA, Huskers, bring your suntan lotion. It's a different sun than you're used to. Minnesota at Oregon. Minnesota at Oregon. That's kind of perfect. The Gophers are used to snow. It'll just be rain instead of snow. Jack Jackson, why don't you kick us off? What tickles your fancy about the Big Ten?
I'd like to make a comment first that if Mr. Fitt, that if any accountant saw the Big Ten network purchase as a write-off, they would giggle as well. So forgive me for as tax season approaches. I'm gonna go back to my Alabama pick where I kind of scuffled out the gates. I'm a believer in Justin Hare in this Ohio State team.
Yeah.
I really am. Like, their brand of baseball, they are who we thought they were. It's genuine. It's authentic. They're always looking for the extra 90. And he's got really, really fun veteran pieces that stuck around. Like, Petterini is a ball player. Add some of the really fun junior college guys that he was able to get to come over, that he was committed to Campbell. I'm still waiting on Indiana to be Indiana a little bit. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I drank the Kool-Aid last year, and I thought that I'd hold my stock this year just to be like, yeah, no, I'm a believer in the Hoosiers. I'm waiting for the offense to go. To me, this feels like an opportunity for Ohio State to go, hey, we went and played a really tough non-con. We quite literally traveled from the Pacific to the Atlantic, and we're going back and forth. Now with Big Ten play here, I look for them to make a statement this weekend. I'm a believer in Hare. A lot of people are saying it's going to take a couple of years. To me, there's no reason that they can't make a statement this year. So that's the matchup I got my eye on.
I like it. Go ahead, Fitzy.
So I think Nebraska, UCLA, obviously crucial for the Huskers. It's kind of, we're getting to a point now where if you're going to be in regional consideration, and this was a preseason top 25 team, they've lost 3 weekends in a row. Cajuns on the road, and the Frisco Classic, they went 1-2, and then that home series to Washington was a big setback. Now they bounced back, won a couple midweek games against Wichita, but how are they going to handle weekends without their ace, Mason McConaughey, who's supposed to be an All-American? I mean, that's a key piece. I liked what I saw from Nebraska and Frisco, even though they didn't play great and they didn't actually even pitch great in the two losses. I still I'm sitting there thinking, man, these guys got a lot of arms, like exciting young arms, mid-90s guys, lefties. I mean, they got stuff. They can mix and match. They just got to find the right combinations, and they got to do it fast. And obviously, like getting their offense going this week, I think the 2 midweek games, maybe that'll be a spark for them. But I think UCLA is good. I think it's a daunting challenge for a Nebraska team to still try to find its footing. I mean, Bruins are 13-4, kind of quietly. I mean, we almost ranked them this past week, or they were in the discussion this past week. They've had some pretty good wins already. I mean, I thought they're showing at Dodgertown with wins against UConn and USC, and they blew out Michigan in a midweek game. They won a really nice road series cross country at Maryland. So, I mean, I think they're doing stuff, and I think it's a team that has a lot of talent still on their roster. Even though I know they've been poached in the portal a few times in the past, but getting obviously Chalowski to stay put there, and I mean, Phoenix Call was kind of a breakout guy for me. He hadn't quite clicked yet, but there's Roman Martin's excited. There's some pieces there that I really like. So I think that's just an important matchup for Nebraska, and I'm curious to see if UCLA can keep rolling, and if they do, they could be in the top 25 this week.
Like it, Kendall. What and anything of these matchups that is of intrigue to you?
Yeah, one thing Aaron just said about Nebraska in the postseason kind of struck a chord, and I think I'm thinking of USC here. USC is now they've lost 6 straight games. Again, very early to be looking at RPI, but I mean, they're in the 90s RPI wise with 6 straight losses. I just think that series at Michigan this weekend is pretty important. Michigan got a big series win over Illinois last weekend, so the Wolverines are actually in a pretty solid spot despite that 0-3 weekend in Arlington. But the Trojans now, guys, when you look ahead at their schedule, I mean, they've got Michigan, Nebraska, at Indiana. They don't play slouches in the midweek. As a matter of fact, they go to Michigan and then go to Tempe and play Arizona State. This is a big weekend for the Trojans just to get right and get an impressive series win on their resume, because right now, I mean, the highlight of their resume is a win over Connecticut and a win over Vanderbilt on the weekend. Otherwise, it's pretty light.
Man, in USC, like 2 years ago, they absolutely should have gotten in the tournament. They finished 5 games ahead of Arizona in the conference, and in a balanced conference. And then last year, they're 1 win away from doing it. Lose to Arizona in that Pac-12 championship game. So, boys, let me give you a menu of off the grid games, if you will. UC Santa Barbara is going to Hawaii. That is a heck of a series. Troy is going to Louisiana. That has got some intrigue. UTSA is going to DBU, little Conference USA soiree. Let's get the Big South going, Big Jack. Charleston Southern and High Point, both off to great starts. Go Buccaneers, go Panthers. Quinnipiac at Ryder, the D1Baseball versus the Bronx. 2 teams that are in, gosh dang it. Fitzy, that's the MAC, right? That's the MAC. Thank you. And then Army at Navy. I mean, who doesn't like an Army at Navy jaunt right there? Jack, any of those series, get at you?
I don't want to go to the alma mater, but at Charleston Southern and High Point, I was all over the 3rd train last year. I think Joey Hammond at High Point they've gone about the recruiting and the portal in a completely different light. And last year, if you remember in that regional against Clemson and Vandy, like they were literally pitches away from being 2-0 and going to a championship game in that regional. You pair that with what Charleston Southern and Coach Carl Kuhn have done at the start of the season, 11-3. I tell you, in my 4 years at Charleston Southern, there were 2 years we were really, really fighting to get to 11 wins over 56. So shout out to the boys in blue and gold. Gavin Bogdanchik is a really fun prospect for them that plays 3 different positions, absolutely rakes and hits bombs. But High Point they have become the standard in that conference. If you've not watched the Big South, give it a shot this weekend. Just give it a shot. I know they're getting some ESPNU love later this year, and rightfully so. Joey Hammond's building a monster in North Carolina.
Love it. Fitzy, what do you see on that off menu?
UTSA at Dallas Baptist, right? Is that
correct?
At DBU?
Yeah.
That's surprisingly intriguing. I'll be honest. I didn't know what to make of UTSA. I was doing the American preview in the preseason. They lost some pieces, and it kind of felt like this is a program that tends to achieve above expectations, maybe even above their talent, you could say. But maybe they're just pretty good at identifying talent that is in the weeds a little bit and developing those guys. But they're 15-4, and obviously Mason Little, I think it's pronounced Little. It's maybe the best player in that league. I mean, one of them certainly. I mean, he was, I think, my preseason pick for player of the year in the conference, and he's been really good. And Andrew Detlefson's been really good as well. So I mean, I figured they would pitch, right? But I wasn't sure about the offense, and so far it's been pretty darn good with some length to it. And so I think maybe they're for real with ECU vulnerable. I mean, UTSA, Tulane, like these kind of teams, this could be their window to really maybe win the American. And so this is a great test for UTSA on the road against a top 25 team. We know how good Dallas Baptist is. So kind of a very fun interstate non-conference mid-major matchup.
Oh man, that's right. UTSA, gosh dang it, these conferences. UTSA is American now, and DBU is. Didn't UTSA spend half a second in the Conference USA? Am I hallucinating?
Yeah.
No, they were there for a second. They couldn't make the trip all the way to the American. They had to stay overnight at Conference USA and then finish the drive in the morning, kind of thing.
The true who could say situation. Really,
yeah,
these
who can say?
I don't know.
Who can say? Who can say? Kendall, what do you got? There's an obvious one sitting right there for you.
Yeah, I mean, I think Troy, Louisiana is really big for me. I mean, Louisiana was one of those teams that coming into the season, I thought they were more likely to be a regional host than not even making a regional. And right now, they're in a precarious spot. I mean, if you look at their non-conference resume at this point for the Cajuns, which, by the way, they're hitting 246 as a team, which I think is second or third from the bottom in that league, which is frankly pretty shocking when you look at the personnel that they brought back this year. They have a series loss San Jose State, got swept at Irvine, lost a series at DBU. And the problem you run into if you're a Sun Belt team, if you have no meat on the bone in terms of your non-conference resume, you better take care of business against the better teams in that conference. And so, I think if they lose that series of Troy this week, I think we all would agree that Troy's going to have a very good year in that conference. It really puts them in a bind because at that point you're looking at like Southern Miss is like a must win later in the year, and you've got to go to Pete Taylor to win that series. So I think for the Cajuns and to kind of navigate this conference schedule and feel like they're within striking distance, I think they need to take that series from Troy this weekend, and that will not be easy.
Yeah, I'll do Santa Barbara. Andrew Checketts. I'm a Big West, wonk, and Andrew Checketts is unbelievable. And Hawaii, I just like Shotgun Spratling, the Sidearm Delivery podcast. He interviewed Rich Hill a week ago, and it was awesome. Like, I love what Rich Hill is doing to rebuild Hawaii's program. They're really locked in on Hawaii kids. And like he even said, like, hey, we're going to lose some marquee kids. Like Iva Arquette, going to the mainland, and the Aloy brothers. But he said, like, we're fighting like crazy to keep them. Like Iva Arquette's sisters on our volleyball team. Like, and we'll take them when they come back. And and so their team is it's a ton of Hawaii kids, and the crowds are awesome at the Les. It's really, I think it's very clever. He's got a great coaching staff, David Nakama, Lindsay Meggs, Keith Zanega is a, rising star. So, I just, it's a fun deal. Jack, I don't know if you've done this yet, but we've asked everyone on staff to pick a team in the Patriot League that you would root for. So I'm on the Lafayette Leopards, hashtag RDP, Roll Damn Pards. Fitzy is Holy Cross, go Saders. Kendall being a Texan, he's Army, West Point Black Knights. Joe is the Lehigh Engineers. I think they're the Mountain Hawks now. Bradley Smart, who's kind of got a little Benedict Arnold in him. He is not a Crusader, even though he's from New England. He's on the Leopard train. So do you want to take a week, Jack, or do you want to make a selection on the spot?
I don't need to at all, and it bodes so beautifully. Like, if you don't want to believe in anything, believe in this. There's only been one team that has collabed and shown love on Instagram with me. And it's Navy, baby.
Nice.
Come on. Anchors down. Let's go. I don't
Coach
need
Rosano.
Half a second. I'm all in.
Yes.
I'm in the DC area now. I'm going to try to go see him this weekend.
Oh, I love it.
Can I give Fitzy some really bad news?
What do you got?
Don't do it. Don't do me like that.
Holy Cross is on the road this weekend against SEC killer Binghamton.
Oh boy,
at least they'll be playing in a nice facility.
Correct. Yeah. And by the way, can we give Bucknell some love? Like, nobody wants to be Bucknell Bison. What's up with that?
Nobody wants to play them or beat them.
Well, nobody wants to be them. Like, we're all picking these teams, and Bucknell's is here lonely.
Yeah, let's go. Who is going to pick Bucknell?
It's I feel like Bradley needs to go in the portal and get a sweet NIL deal to go to Bucknell as a fan.
It's the only team represented.
Shoddy will pick them.
I do want to make sure we understand, though, that the pride of Worcester County, my Holy Cross Crusaders, having a pretty good year. They're 7-8. They have a win against Auburn on the road, and they just split a 4-gamer against VMI, which is, Bradley had a piece on VMI last week about their crazy style of play, and my Satyrs held them in check and put up a bunch of runs in that series. So go Satyrs.
Yeah, well, we'll see what the Satyrs look like when they come to College Hill in Lafayette, Easton, Pennsylvania, I should say, home of Larry Holmes.
That's outside of Philly, Runes.
It's northeast, way northeast of Philly, like hour and a half. It's northeast Pennsylvania. But there you go, Jack. Let's wrap with this. Who's winning the CAA women's basketball tournament?
Man, the College of Charleston Cougars. Let's roll.
The Cougs have a squad. Do we have a good club?
Oh man, we got a pair of twins, Taryn and Taylor Barbeau. They go by the Tornado Twins on Instagram.
Ooh, I like it.
Oh, if you need something to watch this weekend, and it's not the first weekend of SEC baseball, I'll tell you what. The entertainment arena, the First Care Arena in Washington, D.C., it's gonna be must-watch television.
Oh, sorry, I think I'll skip A&M Alabama tomorrow night to watch College of Charleston Twins basketball.
No, we're talking. Let me ask you this. I am curious because I feel like I've been fending them off. Kendall, my cousin is a diehard Aggie. All week long, I have been all over Michael Early and the boys. I go, I'm considering shaving my head out of solidarity for that offense. I'm still all in. Is everyone hitting the panic button?
Well, I didn't do it in honor of them, but I did shave my head.
Nice.
Well
done.
My hair was getting a little scraggly.
What a coincidence.
Yeah, exactly. You know me. Hashtag Homer. There are a lot of Aggies who have pressed the panic button, but there are also a lot of Aggies who, after losing a conference tournament basketball game today to Texas, that think the season is over despite being a 3 seed in the basketball tournament. So consider the source.
Yeah, that's fair. I've decided, gentlemen, we talked about it all week. I do think Alabama wins the series. I think that their pitching is that good. I think 1 through 9, they're so disciplined and they know who they are offensively.
Yeah.
And I think Prager wins on Friday, Quick wins on Saturday, Alabama wins in a Sunday Fun Day Run Day. And then I'm going to buy all the stock in the world on Monday morning on Texas A&M. I'm buying all of it whenever I that play.
I don't know if I'm buying all the stock on A&M if they lose that series at home this weekend, but I will say this, Runes, I don't know if you pointed it out earlier from your conversation with Early, or I heard it or saw it in the notes or something somewhere, but like the last 4 or 5 balls that Lavalette has hit, I think he's gotten out 4 of the 5 times, but every single one of the balls that were hit were 104 or better in exit velocity. At some point, that's gonna produce, and if you're Alabama, you hope that doesn't start this weekend.
Yeah, he's got his last 8, in the last week, he's hit 8 balls, 104 or above, and only 2 were hits. So he's due. I told these guys, Jack, before you jumped on, we got to speak to Mike Early today, and I officially jumped off the bandwagon on the Monday podcast. I basically checked out of the hotel, and now I'm checking back in, which is quite the scene.
I love that. You were so swayed by that stuff.
Oh. Fitzy would accuse me of being a flip flopper. I can flip flop with anybody, but they are pitching, and Hayden Schott is one of my favorite players in college baseball, and he's been kind of noticeably quiet and not he's just been not the same presence this year.
That tends to happen when you tear your meniscus 100 times.
Yeah, and here's what Coach Early said to us today, which gives you great empathy for Hayden Schott. So last year when he tore his meniscus, he said we were like 4 weeks into the season and Hayden was rolling. Like he was already killing it. So he said it's just kind of like he just kept playing great. You know, like he was already kind of feeling it and it sucked, but it was like you're playing great. He said this year it happened right before the season. So it's like a double gut punch. It's like, number one, you think you're past this injury and now you got another, 6 months of it. And then you've got no juju going, and then you start slow. So I think, he said the at-bats have been better for Hayden Schott recently. And so, but you feel terrible for the kid when, now he's not a kid, he's an adult. But anyway, that sucks. I don't wish that on
dude's
anybody.
like almost like 27 now, isn't he?
Whoa. Hey, super senior here as well. I'm all on board.
Yeah, that's right. No judgment.
Jack, you never know, man. You might have more eligibility left. All you got to do is take the NCAA to court. That's for the next pod.
As long as college baseball pitching coaches are still playing changeups, I don't need to go back. I'm good.
That's right. Yeah, who needs
Hey, Coach Rooney, by the way, before we adjourn here, shout out to you. Your breakout star pick, Wyatt Hensler. I don't know if you've noticed.
Yes.
Having a pretty good year. 1150 OPS. He's doing his part. Nobody ever heard of this kid until Coach Rooney went out on a limb and said, "That's my guy, my breakout star."
Yeah. I was way ahead of it, Jack. And I also, I'm telling everybody, get IBM stock ASAP. Get in there. I think this computer thing's going to really pop. 20 years from now, everybody's going to have at least 3 computers in their house. I know it sounds nuts right now, but it's going to happen.
Runes is going to call a scout and be like, I got a guy you've never heard of, Jalen Flores.
Justin LeBron.
LeBron. This guy,
you need him on your board.
He's really little, but he's got an electric bat.
Hey, did we talk about this? I'm sure you guys already mentioned it. Kind of cool that we could potentially have the 2025 number 1 overall pick and the 2026 number 1 overall pick.
That's fun.
I don't know how many times that happens, but sign me up. I'm all in.
Yeah, that would be spicy. Well,
that
good. Gentlemen, this was fun. Happy Thursday evening. Week 5 is upon us. Jack, let's go Tornado Twins. Cougs.
Go Cougs.
Yes, let's get her done. Gentlemen, Fitzy, have fun on your travels in SEC country. By the way, people, follow Mark Etheridge on Twitter. I believe tomorrow he starts a 10-day trek where he's going to see 10 games in 10 days in 10 different spots, which is so Marcus Etheridge.
And he's kicking it off in Knoxville too, Florida and Tennessee. So that'll be
amazing. Fun. Yeah, maybe he may not even make it to game 2 the way that goes. Who knows? I mean, who can say? Another classic who can say moment there. So Jack Jackson, it was a pleasure. Great to see your face.
Much love, guys. Thanks for having me, boys.
Much love. Thanks, well said. All right, boys. Hey, everybody have a great weekend. Enjoy, and we'll catch you next time on the D1 Baseball Podcast.